So welcome everybody. This is Bhagavad Gītā chapter 15, memorization team study workshop club posse. What is it? Shloka posse. And Bailey, you want to start us off? Do a recitation of whatever you can remember.
Sure. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Urdhvam Lamada Shakam Ashvatam Prahoravyayam Chandamsi Yasya Parnani Yastam Veda Sa Vedavit Adashchordvam Prasritastasya Shikha Guna Pravrita Vishaya Pravalaha Adashchamulani Anusantatani Karmanubandini Manushaloke Narupam Seha Tatopalabite Nantonachadir Nacha Sampratishta Ashvatamenam Suverudamalam Asanga Shastrana Durdana Chitva Tatapadam Tat Parimargatavyam Yasmin Gata Na Nivartanti Bhuyaha Tam Eva Chadyam Purusham Prapadye Yata Pravritti Prasuta Purani Nirmana Moha Jita Sangha Dosha Adyatmanitya Vinivritta Kamaha Vanver Vimukta Sukaduka Samver Shanti Amuda Dhamma Vyayam
Memorization thing.
Na Tad Bashayate Suryo Na Shishanko Na Pavakaha Yadgatva Na Nivartante Tadama Paramam Mama Mame Vamsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatanaha Mana Shishtani Indriyani Prakrtistani Karshati Shariram Yad Vapnoti Yachchapi Utkramatishvaraha Gritvetani Samyati Vayor Gandhani Vashayat Shrotram Chaksha Sparshanam Cha
Rasanam.
Rasanam Granam Eva Cha Adishtaya Manaschayam Vishayan Upasavate.
Yeah. Nice, nice. Everybody. Hari Hari Bo. Welcome, Jeffrey. Jeffrey, welcome. Where are you coming in from?
Hey, thanks. From Illinois. It's like a suburb of Chicago.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And this is your first class in this group. Have you ever tried to do a Bhagavad Gītā verse memorization or any Sanskrit verse memorization?
I haven't memorized the Sanskrit, but I've memorized like English translation.
English, okay, cool.
Yeah. I do have the Bhagavad Gītā as it is.
Very nice,
with
very
me,
nice.
So
we dive deep into the Sanskrit because it's like a mine. There's so much information that can be mined out of this like jewel mine of the verses of the Gita, and we employ different methods. We often try to act out like what the word means, because we don't want to have two separate things, that we have some shibi shubi shaba shubi some weird language that we're just like saying, and then we have like some other thing that we're trying to like memorize at the same time, like some meaningless sounds, and then the English that we know. But rather we're making ourselves aware of most of the vocabulary through acting it out, just a recitation, questioning each other on what this word means. And the thing is that as you go on, each like verse 1 says urdhvam and ada, which means up and down, and then verse 2 uses that same word. So your vocabulary grows. You start to see more verses that, oh, I already know those words.
And just making those associations.
Yes.
So you act it out and stuff. Yeah.
And then we also we act it out. We recite. from wherever we're at. So like we just had Bailey, he recited up to verse 9. Was that up to verse 9? Oh, yeah, it was up to verse.
Yeah.
Was it 10? 10 or 9?
It was 9.
9. Okay, yeah, verse. So wherever we're at, we're starting on one verse, but then as we work through, when we're working on our third verse, or our fourth verse, we continue reciting it as a package, and they all just kind of lead into each other. It's very different from learning important verses, because if you learn important verses, the only way you keep any of this stuff is if you use it, and it can be very hard to use all these things on a regular basis to the point that you don't forget it. But a song can be sung by anybody. You know, any fool can sing a song. It may take a genius to, you know, connect all these things and use it, and even be in the situation. And I don't know how many of you are like have a podcast like Wisdom of Sages, or are you temple priest or something like that, where you get to use these things. So it's like you might not even have an opportunity on a daily basis to use this, but to sing it, which takes from 2 to like 6 minutes to chant the whole chapter, that, you know, we can do on a daily basis. Even if you say, oh, okay, I'm gonna just do it once a week. If you do it once a week, you'll keep it with you. And that's a cool thing about the whole chapter memorization. It becomes a sadhana, like a regular spiritual practice that adjusts how we see the world. Like we go outside, we can say, Yada Ditya Gatam Tejo, the light of the sun, the power of the light of the moon, and the power within fire. That comes from me. And we can just be reminded of that. We see the moon, we can say the same verse there, you know. And so Victoria, welcome back. Victoria, I think she's in California. She's got her microgreens. Welcome, welcome. Is that correct? California? Sometimes like
yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, thank you. So, and we got Avinash back. Welcome, Hare Krishna. He's from Dallas actually, and he has a few chapters memorized, but not chapter 15. So we're blessed to have him. And Carlos, once again, where are you coming in from?
I'm in Canada.
Canada. Oh yes, yes, yes. Welcome.
Thank
All
you.
right, so let's open it up, chapter 15. We're just finishing up. Jeffrey, did you have have you had any opportunity to see some of the emails?
Yeah, I've seen all the emails you've been sending out.
And there's one there were some resources in the first email, and one of them that really is very important, but it's also very simple, is Bhagavad Gītā in acronyms. I don't know if you had a chance to see that one yet. So
I did not see that one.
Okay, so Bhagavad Gītā in acronyms, a super sharp brahmachari from London, monk from London. He took every chapter of the Bhagavad Gītā and he made an acronym, and they're not like dorky acronyms. They're very, very witty, and they're very succinct, and they describe the conversation flow. You know, so chapter 15 is HOME. First 6 verses are whether this world is our home or is it the hotel. Like, can we stay here? Do we own it? No, and you can't stay. So it's a hotel. You know, when you go to a hotel, you don't repaint the walls, you don't put your pictures on the wall, you don't retile the floors, you don't like, because you know, I can't stay here. Sometimes you meet people at a hotel. Most of the time, if you meet people, you know, you're not going to even really connect with those people again. So in this world, we have this understanding that we can't keep anything with us, really. Only we can keep our spiritual growth. So home or hotel, that's like verse 5 for 6 verses. Then verses 7 through 11 is for over and over and on again, the cycle of rebirth, reincarnation. This last verse that we're doing today is the last verse on that section. Then M is for maintainer. This is the maintainer of body, mind, and soul, Krishna. And that's all described in verses 12 through 15. Then the last verses are the essence. Where he goes into the essence of the Bhagavad Gītā. He also describes the distinction between the soul and God. And he describes how one who has achieved the highest state, he has this relationship, this bhakti, this relationship of love and service. So chapter 15 is a good introduction. If you have this chapter memorized and someone says, hey, can you tell me what this is all about? And you could say, well, here, let me just wrap off some of the Sanskrit and give you a whole introduction in like 15 minutes, and you could go for the progression. This world's not your home. It's kind of even like, even before someone may understand reincarnation, they have to have like some idea, wait, something's not right here, you know. And so world's not my home is kind of, it's like a really it's like basic understanding. Then a little higher, you know, you're not the body, you're the soul. You know, a little higher, there's a God, and you know, and we get everything from him. And then a little higher, yeah, you should connect in love and service. And so it's a good starting point to cover some real basic fundamental understandings that help people. So the previous verse, Krishna is saying, Yatanto, he says, Utkramatam stitam vapi. So Utkramatam, leaving the body, stitam vapi, being in the body, stitam vapi. Bhunjanam, remember this? Bhunjanam, enjoying within the body. Va gunanvitan. I don't know how we acted out gunanvitan being. Oh yeah, gunanvitan. Here's the gunanvitan. Being under the spell of the modes, like a puppeteer. So the foolish mudha, vimudha, the big, as Mr. Seva said, the idiot, you can't see how the soul leaves the body, is in the body, and is experiencing everything within the body. You can't see that. But Pashyanti Jnana Chakshusha, the one who has eyes trained with knowledge, he can see it just like in any field of sophistication. You may look at something and not understand, and somebody else who's a surgeon or something who has been trained, he sees the whole picture. You see just a bunch of bloody looking flesh, and he says, no, this is the liver, this is this is that. And we're like, she saw the same to me. So there's training there. Now he's basically kind of continuing that point and giving some more details. And that's Yatanto yoginas chainam pashantya atmanavashtatam yatanto pi kritatmano nainam pashanti chetasaha. The endeavoring transcendentalists who are situated in self-realization can see this all clearly. But those whose minds are not developed and who are not situated in self-realization cannot see what is taking place, though they may try to. I'm going to read the purport. It's very short. There are many transcendentalists on the path of self-realization, but one who is not situated in self-realization cannot see how things are changing in the body of the living entity. The word yoginaha is significant in this connection. In the present day, there are many so-called yogis. Can you guys think of any so-called yogis? Some beer yoga. Like this.
Goat yoga.
The goat yoga. There's like naked yoga. And instead of becoming less inclined to identifying with the body, a person through the so-called yoga is becoming more inclined. I am this body, and this body is so beautiful. You are beautiful. I am beautiful. You know. So we're becoming more inclined to increasing the desire to enjoy matter in a very sophisticated way, more subtle way, perhaps a more refined way. But yoga means that the yoga's chitti nirodha, the first sloka of the Yoga Sutra, means to stop this fluctuation of the mind. Stop wanting this, wanting that. I like this, I don't like this. I wish I had that. Oh, I missed, I lost this. Like, stop that fluctuation. So it's a different endeavor. It's a different consciousness than what you pretty much find anywhere under the name of yoga. And it can be definitely a stepping stone towards some type of spiritual realization, some further curiosity. Just like much of Vedic culture, a lot of it is not directly spiritual, but it may lead someone to go in that direction by, if somebody's in, for example, it doesn't matter nowadays or in the ancient past. If somebody, sees, man, this Ayurveda, it works. They said, stop eating this, go to bed on time, eat like this. Actually taste your food. Consciously taste. Just like you're in a noisy room, you can hear what the people at the table next door are saying if you put your attention there. So you can actually taste your food if you put your attention there. If you're not just minds all over the place looking at, you're driving down the road and you're watching your phone and you're doing and you're eating food at the same time. There's no attention, so it gives poor digestion, all kinds of other problems there. So a person in Ayurveda, studying Ayurveda or interested, they may realize, wow, this stuff works. And thus they open themselves up to other sources of Vedic knowledge, and they may come across Bhagavad Gītā. Because, man, this Ayurveda thing worked, or this astrology thing worked, or this, this yoga actually helped me to, be not so controlled, my mind a little bit more controlled, and I practice some, just even the breathing practice. I see how my mind is less throwing me around here and there. So it can be an opening, but if it doesn't, if what is called yoga, because yoga means union, unite, yoke, link with the supreme. If it's not actually doing that, then it's not really yoga, it's so-called yoga. Then there are many so-called associations of yogis, but they're actually blind in the matter of self-realization. They're simply addicted to some sort of gymnastic exercise and are satisfied if the body is well built and healthy. They have no other information. They are called yatanto pi kritatmanaha. Even though they're endeavoring in the so-called yoga system, they are not self-realized. Such people cannot understand the process of transmigration of the soul. Only those who are actually in the yoga system and have realized the self, the world, and the Supreme Lord. In other words, the bhakti yogis, those who engage in pure devotional service in Krishna consciousness, can understand how things are taking place. So someone has to be connected somehow to some sort of authentic source of information coming down from the original spiritual lineage. So if they're in contact with people who have not just theoretical, but they have some experience, they're applying it, they can transmit that knowledge, and then people become, for example, many people, just like Raghunath, he has yoga classes, but people are hearing things that this is somebody who has realization. It's not just like, oh yeah, I did my I have different exercise routines, this exercise routine, that exercise routine, and there's like some kind of philosophy behind it. So I'll say something, I heard something, Yoga Sutras, and they just repeat, but there's some actual realization there. So let's see, yatantaha, endeavoring, yoginaha. That's yogi is very easy. So those who are practicing, endeavoring, who are being yatanta yoginas chainam. Pashanti, we already seen this word before. Pashanti means to see. How many times is it said in this verse? And how many times in the previous verse? Yes, so it's twice. So we should avashtitam. So this word shtitam, we're coming across that word often. Situated. And what does that mean? Like, what are some of the, I said there are different roots that are similar to that. Shtitam, stani, stan, Pakistan, Kazakhstan, where you stand, situated. Shtitam, like a, and let's see, let's see, what does verse 15 say? I think there's another Shtitam stani, something like that. Sarvashchachaham Hridi. Oh no, it's got another, it's a different word that's used for that. Shanivishta. Okay. But previously we've come across some this stitam, tishtani. We've come across that. This let's see. I know verse 3. Sampratishta. Okay. Okay.
Babu,
So, yes.
I
Question.
have a couple questions itching my mind as a beginner to this.
Go for it. Yes, yes.
So first is like when you go from the verse to where he's sort of defining each word, when they
Yes.
change the like a little, like the ending maybe from yatanto to yatantaha.
Yes.
What's going on there?
What's going on there? Very good, very good. So this is like the way you see it in the word for word is like the dictionary spelling. And the way Sanskrit works is it's spelled how it's phonetically, how it goes together. Like if you say cha and ava, and they're coming together, it will become cheva. And it'll be spelled C-A-I-V-A. But then you look at the word, it'll say cha and ava. And in yatantaha, here's another point that we'll have Bailey explain about this letter, the H with the dot. Mr. Bailey's going to explain that one.
So the H with the dot, that's at the end of the word. That's what like we're talking about a chetasa. So the dot underneath the H repeats the sound of the previous letter, and it's always going to be a vowel. In this case, it would be a chetasa.
Chance is confirming your statement with his road sound.
With his airplane noises. But yeah, you'll see it a lot, and you only make the extra sound with your mouth when it's the end of the second and fourth line.
I see.
To my knowledge, I think it adds a syllable, so it messes up the meter of it.
So like I took conversational Sanskrit years after learning verses, and in conversational Sanskrit they were saying all the ahas and stuff because they weren't speaking in like a sloka metered kind of way. So they would say, like if you're saying Krishna, they would say Krishna. They would a lot of times the words, all those H's would be, although H, I forget what that letter is called, but they would all be not aspirated, but they would all have the full sound. But in the verse, as you see, it's going to be the second or the fourth line, or usually, like if you look here, you see it's actually a verse is 2 lines. That's broken up kind of into 4 parts. So the end of the first line and then the second line, which ends up to be the end of the second line in English and then the 4th line in English. So if you see that H and it's not on those parts, then don't worry about following that. But basically, yeah, the verse is going to be spelled phonetically how it would sound when you put those words together. Like I'm trying to, sometimes like consonants will change because when you put them together, it kind of starts to sound a little bit different. When you say the word together. next to each other, it has a different sound. Let's see if there are any example. Well, you see the Y, the I becomes a Y. And I find that this verse I was looking at the other day, and I was like, my God, that second line was like throwing my head in a circle. And I just try to say it, not get too hung up on it, and just say Pashantyatmani Atmani Avashtatam. It's like, that was like, what? That's a hard one. Pashantyatmani Avashtatam. It makes learning Sanskrit grammar so incredibly challenging. The sandhi, how they combine together. Yes. And the thing about what we're doing here, Jeffrey, just for is, and as a lot of the folks here will let you know, is that when we're familiar with the translation, because we're not working towards a rote English repetition. That is fine, but what I'm aiming for, what I've done this for, I have chapter 7, 9, half of 10, and 15 memorized, and it's an authentic translation in your own words, because you're familiar with the actual translation and you're familiar with the words, so you can just place it you can speak it in your own way. And oftentimes you find Srila Prabhupada, he would say a verse and he would say it differently each time. He would just say it, in whatever, how it casually came out. And he would also pull out meanings. Sometimes you find in the purport, it says they're called yatanto prakitatmano, and sometimes he'll take one word and he'll fluff it out further, like show how much more meaning there is. For example, I'll give you one example. Does everybody know what the word jnana means? Anybody can tell us, what does the word jnana mean? Who wants to say it?
Go, David.
Knowledge.
Now, how would you define the word knowledge? How would you explain, somebody who doesn't, what does this word knowledge mean? How would you define it?
So to my understanding, when they say jnana, it's not like an intellectual knowledge. It's like
yes.
experiential, right?
Well, it's jnana it means knowledge, the difference between matter and spirit. So like if you say, it's not like how many windows are in this building or something, like it's more of a that spiritual philosophical discernment. Vijnana is a little bit more advanced in the level of experience, vijnana, and then jnana is, but just the word knowledge, the way it's described in the Sanskrit dictionary, one definition how to explain what the word knowledge means is that by which something is known. The thing by which something is known. Now, one of the acharyas explained how the word bhakti, the word jnana in chapter 9 doesn't mean the way it's used in other chapters, because the topic is Krishna. And how can Krishna be known? Krishna describes in chapter 18, is bhaktyaham abhijananti, I can only be known by bhakti. So in chapter 9, this word jnana actually means bhakti, because it's that by which something is known, and the only way this thing is known is through bhakti. And so it's cool because sometimes the words have like so many deep hidden meanings and stuff. So we try to mine out the Sanskrit. That's why we send all those different commentaries, because it's like a jewel and you get to see, oh, this jewel has another color there. I didn't notice that before. So yatanto yoginaschainam pashantya atmavashchitam. So those are, okay, yatanto, endeavoring yogis can see, pashanti, can see, atma, the self, the soul, situated, how the soul is situated, the situation of the soul, But those who are akritatmano, krita means like you're doing, you have some deeds, you have some credits. Like there's a verse in chapter 7, namam duskritino mudha. And Prabhupada explains that duskritina, kriti means his credits, but they have bad, they're using their credits in a bad way. Like maybe they have intelligence, but they're using it in the wrong way. Maybe they have wealth, they're using it in the wrong way. So here it's saying akritatmano. They're just not, they're not, they don't have that qualification, or they're not practicing, they're not doing anything for them spiritually. They're not putting that interest and endeavor. So kritatmano, they're kind of like, when it comes to spiritual life, they're completely lethargic and lazy. It's like not their interest. He says such people, if they're endeavoring, even if they endeavor, but they're completely lethargic and they have no actual spiritual interest. They try to just understand it intellectually. Having achetasaha, cheta is consciousness, acheta, undeveloped consciousness, undeveloped minds, like the word chaitanya, consciousness, achetasaha. Na nainam pashanti, na enam. Nainam, you see this na enam becomes nainam, nainam, nainam pashanti. They do not see, can't see this thing. What's going on? Any reflections so far? Some questions?
Yes, Prabhu. Going
Yes.
kind of off what Jeffrey was saying earlier, for example, just the first word in the verse, yatanto, in the verse, but in the translation, it's yatanta or yatantaha.
Yatanto,
And then
yatanto yoginas, yatanto. It's kind of, yeah, it's Sunday basically. When you the to yogi, I guess it's just, it's understood to come out like a oh yatanto yogina.
oh, okay. So then
It's just how they combine together, how it just it's being spelled out phonetically when you speak those words together.
Gotcha. Okay, connected now when you said it with me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yatantapi, 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 yatantapi. Yeah, it's just more of it's how it's phonetic, and then the word for it is kind of the dictionary spelling. So we have a clear understanding of what the word is, despite the sandhis, despite the spelling rules of how they sound together. Okay, so let's give it a prayer. So everyone can repeat after me. You can just keep it on mute for now, and we repeat after me. Yatanto yoginesh chainam. Chainam. Yatanto yoginesh chainam. Yatanto yoginesh chainam. Pashanti atma nyavashchitam. I'm saying atma nyavashchitam. Atma nyavashchitam. That seems like the easiest way to get your head around that. That thing was like, what is this thing? Atma nyavashchitam. Atma nyavashchitam. Atma nyavashchitam. Does that work out for everybody? It's not an easy one. Yeah, sometimes you have to try to say the words separately. Sometimes you have to break them apart in a different part just to make the tongue follow along. Vashantyatmanyavashchatam. 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 I'm telling you, that's not easy. yatantopi akritatmano nenam pashanti che achitasaha. Nenam pashanti achitasaha. So Jeffrey, without looking at the paper, do you remember what pashanti means?
To see.
Yes, awesome. There you go. There you go. Anybody remember what is achetasaha? Chaitanya.
Or go ahead, Bailey.
Oh, those that aren't qualified for.
That would be that was the akritatmano. The kriti is like the credits, yeah, the credits. But cheta is your consciousness, and acheta means like unconscious, undeveloped minds. That's what it says there in the word for word. Having undeveloped minds, just like unconscious people. Achetasaha. If you're unconscious, you don't put some interest in the spiritual progress. You're not going to understand this. Not going to understand even the basics, how the soul is going from one body to another. Can't understand that. And isn't it the majority of the world do not understand that? And one devotee was trying to explain this to somebody, like how you're not the body, and then he's like, well, whose body am I then? He's like, just can't get his mind around it. You know, say, no, if I have a soul, it's like it's a possession, it's a thing you have. Like, no, you don't have a soul. It's not like some, pocket watch that you keep with you or something. It's not some other possession. That's you. When we're talking soul, we say stop even using the word soul. Just like it says it in the self, atmani. Just say, do you have a self? No, you are a self. You are yourself. You don't have a self. And then you say, well, it's all one. It's a whole thing. Well, then if it is a whole thing, then what about the body headed 7 years old that died? All those cells died. So if you are the body, then part of you died. Where's that? Which body are you if you are the body? The one you have now? Okay, and what about when these cells die off? So he's saying, yeah, you can't understand it without the, some spiritual credit or coming in contact with those who have spiritual credit, as Prabhupada mentions in the purport. Then it's like that Om Jnana Timurandasya. They open my eyes with they dissipate the darkness with the torchlight of knowledge. They make it possible for those to see. That, the verse that the invocation.
Prabhu, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
My friend was over last night and she was telling me that she meditates on herself, like the soul of herself.
Yes.
And I was trying to give her, my interpretation of what I do through meditation. When I meditate and I say Hare Krishna, the Maha Mantra, I see myself as like a grain of salt in an ocean of like vastness of, of more of that of the ocean. Anyway, so I'm just trying to ask, like, did Prabhupada ever spoke on meditating on the self itself?
Okay, so the yogis, as you know, there are two different types of transcendentalists. They're what is called the Brahmavadis, who don't have this kind of bhakti or loving connection. They're interested in the energy or the all-pervasive energy of the Lord, or they start to connect as they progress even further. They start to connect to the super soul within the heart, and when they move in that direction, in the beginning there may be some confusion. Is that me? That super soul? Is that me? Because the yogis are actually meant to meditate on the super soul, and there may be some some confusion and in the very beginning of the energy, the energy that pervades everything. Yeah, we are all part of that. Um, we are all of the same substance. But then, as Krishna says, the first thing he says in the Gita, he says, what is the first verse? It is not first verse in the of the whole chapter, but the first verse that Krishna gives instruction. One of the first things he says is, okay, I'll just say what he says. Not the Sanskrit's going away from my brain. He says, never was a time that I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings. So he asserts that there's like this individuality, not natvevaham jatunasham, that individuality of the living entity is eternally present. And in this chapter also, there's what verse describes that, Bailey? The eternal individuality of the soul.
Eternal individuality of the soul. Can you give me the first word?
Mama evam sho, my anshas, my parts are jiva bhuta.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what's the word for eternity there? Sanatana. So yeah, there is what is called Atmarama. There are souls that are just merged into the bliss of the self. So that is not considered not discounted. There is a strong opposition to what is called monism. Yeah, monism is one. Yeah, there's a strong opposition to the monism that has the stance that God is unreal, because it can seem kind of confusing difference between what is a Brahmavadi and a Mayavadi, because Brahmavadi are those who they may have understanding of that there's a supreme being, but they just their interest is the energy, and they're just kind of it's not a devote. They don't have that relationship kind of connection. Where the Mayavadi just outright says, it's a kind of an atheistic that no, God does not exist, and it's a stance that God is just part of the illusion. He's just like Shankaracharya. He was actually incarnation of Lord Shiva, and his job was to present Mayavadi philosophy in order to kind of bridge the gap from Buddhism back to Vedic culture, but kind of a Vedic Buddhism, which was Advaita philosophy, or the Mayavad philosophy, which was like a step a little higher, because Buddha came to reject the Vedas. Buddha was actually an avatar of Krishna, and he's saying, forget this Vedas. But it was for a particular point, to get people out of killing animals in the name of religion. Just, instead of trying to correct the misunderstandings about sacrifice, he said, just stop this stupid stuff. Stop hurting animals. If you're hurting animals, you don't understand anything. Let's get to the basics. And whether people became Buddhists or not in India, Buddhism started in India. It affected all of India, and everybody kind of reaffirmed their values of ahimsa, nonviolence. Then Shankaracharya came, and he brought back in the people into the Vedic fold, but didn't push the theistic side. Like, okay, you don't want to believe in God, that's fine. We have Advaita Vedanta. I'm God, you're God, it's all one. There is no God, it's just oneness. And they will say stuff like, yeah, Vishnu is God, but it's like he's just a figure in the illusion. It's like being the president in the Matrix. That's the kind of Mayavad philosophy. So it's kind of subtle. Like you can even have temples where like a temple in India, and people are worshiping, but their idea is that at the end they become Vishnu. And one Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada's guru, he describes this as, he called it once Putana Bhakti. Do you know who Putana is? Putana was the witch that came to feed baby Krishna. And so what did she do? She presented herself as a bhakta, as a servant. But what was her goal? To get rid of him. So somebody may have this idea like, oh, I'm going to worship Krishna so I can get rid of him and take his place. So that's So there's some distinction there, but Krishna says this monist path is not, he doesn't like demonize it. It's not like, oh, that's bad. It's just, he says it's almost impossible. In chapter 12, Arjuna asked the question, what happens if someone is, what's a better, who is more better situated in yoga? Someone who approaches, worships your impersonal absolute, or one who worships you with relationship and devotion. And he says both are, spiritual paths, but one is almost impossible and extremely difficult, and the other is, you got my help. You treat me personally, then I personally treat you. I treat you personally, and I help you out. You treat me impersonally, then I'm impersonal with you, meaning you're all on your own. And you say I don't exist, then I don't exist. I will not give you an excuse to see my existence. I will support your atheism. I will support your impersonalism. Krishna responds. And if like for the demons, even like in Kamsa, he says, "Oh, you want to fight with me? Okay, I will fight with you, but I'm sorry, I'll win." So he reciprocates with everyone's desire. So there is a Atmarama, being situated on that kind of enjoying the bliss of the self, the soul. And the Chaitanya Charitamrita describes that if you take the bliss, that the happiness, the pleasures that you can experience on earth, and you multiply that thousands of times, then you get the pleasure of the higher planet called like Janaloka. Then you take that pleasure, you multiply that thousands of times, and that's the pleasure that a person experiences like on Indraloka. We think, this person's so beautiful, that person's so beautiful, but human beings look like toads compared to the demigods. And we got like these insignificant lifespans, and like the demigods, they have the karma to experience all kinds of materialistic delights. And so he's like, their pleasures, material pleasures, are much higher, and they have some kind of relationship with Krishna, so they're getting some kind of spiritual connection too as well. But it's hard for them to grow there because it's like they're so endowed with enjoyment. You take that pleasure on that level, Indraloka, you multiply that thousands of times. That's Tapaloka. You take that pleasure, multiply that thousands of times. Then you're experiencing the pleasure of Brahmaloka, the abode of Lord Brahma. You take that pleasure, you multiply that thousands of times, and you come to the level of Brahmananda, bliss of the self, bliss of the soul. Now, if you take that pleasure and forget multiplying it thousands of times, multiply it millions upon millions of millions of times, and that's just like a grain of salt in the ocean. It's like a drop of water in the ocean compared to the ocean of happiness that the soul experiences in that rasa, or that relationship. So therefore, there's like 6 different effects of bhakti, and one of them, the last one is that it makes liberation, this bliss of the self, appear as completely insignificant. What the person is like trying to attain for thousands of lifetimes of practice and perfection, that goal is like, it's insignificant compared to the bliss of the relationship, because the soul nature is to relate with that loving connection. And there are many verses in the Bhagavatam that describe this. Like there are the 4 Kumaras. Remember the 4 Kumaras, the 4 naked baby sages, and they're on that Atmarama level. They're on that Brahmananda level, where they're just totally blissed out on and have no material desires. So if somebody like Lord Shiva, he's the Yogeshwar. He's the great yogi, and the demigods. I forget what the story was, but they're asking Durga to like wake him up, or she could not like attract him. She could not like with her. She's the most beautiful feminine entity in the universe, and she could not attract his attention at all. Therefore, Lord Shiva is known as the greatest yogi. Now, Lord Shiva then, however, becomes attracted to Krishna. Actually, the pastime of Lord Shiva asked, I want to see this Mohini form that he's talking about. It's a feminine form of Krishna. And Krishna employed the Mohini form, but it's a Yogamaya. It's not his Durga's Mahamaya. It's a material illusion. But this is like this. He immediately started chasing after like crazy. So in the same way, the like four Kumaras, they went to the spiritual world, and as soon as they saw Vishnu, they were just totally attracted. Just their hearts were driven. So there's a very famous verse. This verse is is explained by Lord Chaitanya, and it describes it in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Really cool. I would like to see like a whole chart of. He explains this verse in 64 different ways. Each word has different meanings, and you can come up with 64 different meanings of this verse, but they're all quite similar. They're not like, okay, this meaning refutes that meaning. No, they're just all different cool glorifications of this amazing thing. So Atmaramas Chamunayo, I don't remember the whole verse, but the Atmaramas Chamunayo, Atmarama, Rama means pleasure. Atmarama means the soul, a person who takes pleasure in the soul. The great Atmaramas Chamunayo. So the verse explains that a person on that level is still attracted to bhakti, to Krishna, because they supposedly don't need anything, but then Krishna comes along, and, woo, like the meme of the guy looking at the other girl, you know. So it's like Krishna, like Atmarama satisfaction, Krishna, whoa. So it is a factual thing. It most often it is mixed with that Mayavadi. Often the conceptions are mixed with the Mayavadi, that there is no God. I'm God, you're God, and that kind of closes a lot of doors towards progress, because it becomes like a affront to the Supreme, and it's very subtle, and also it's practically impossible, especially in Kali Yuga, to come to realize this, to be merged in the bliss of the self. You have to completely have full control of your senses and mind, without the help of Krishna, without the help of something giving you a higher taste. It's like telling the hungry person who's going to the dumpster, don't eat the food because that's nasty. You know, he's like, okay. He said, don't eat it. Okay, so the guys, he walks away, and then you see the guy go back to the dumpster an hour later. He's like, don't eat that food, it's nasty. That's a dumpster. He's like, but as soon as you give him pizza, he doesn't care about the dumpster anymore. It's like the lower pleasure immediately lost its attraction. You give him some amazing Krishna feast, then that lower, the dumpster doesn't have any pull on his heart. So in the same way, we have attraction to material pleasures, attraction to enjoy separately from Krishna. We have attraction to all these material things. And if we say, okay, I'm just not going to do it, I'm not going to do it, not going to do it. No, the soul is pleasure seeking. So how are you going to stop it? It may be possible for, 1 out of a billion people to try to do that without some higher experience. But most people, the soul's going to seek pleasure. So in bhakti, you get pleasure. You don't, it's not, we're not stopping the pleasure. Say, don't touch anything. Don't, no, you got to eat only bland food, no salt, no spices. You only have to eat, raw roots living in the forest. You can't have like any type of comforts. You like Krishna describes in the chapter 6 of Bhagavad Gītā, if you're going to do Ashtanga yoga, you have to live in the forest. You have to be a complete celibate. You can't be hanging around with, you can't have any friends. You can't do any of those things. But in bhakti, you can have all those things in relationship with bhakti. You can offer Krishna good food. You can have a family. You can do all these things because they can all be done as a service. So then, yeah, it becomes the pizza. It gives a higher taste. Krishna can help that break that vicious cycle, failing to attempt of abstinence. Yes, yes. So yeah, without that, it's not negation, it's addition. It's yoga. The word yoga, in mathematics, Vedic mathematics, the word yoga means addition. And V-yoga means minus. So you add Krishna and it's like everything becomes nice. You don't have to not taste good food. You don't have to not talk. You just talk about Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. I really appreciated your explanation from what I was mentioning. And I just had the realization that my friend actually, she was talking about meditating on herself, but at the same time, she also talked about how she feels the Paramatma, the God within her. So she talks to God in that sense. And I'm like, okay, so you have both of those realizations, but you're missing the personal aspect. So then I challenged her. I said, okay, so if you're speaking to God, then God must be a person and must have personality, because otherwise then you're just talking to, the nothingness of the universe.
Yeah, yeah.
So we had really deep conversations, and also it reminded me that I also talked to my other friend yesterday too. He's a Shiva devotee, and he was also telling me that he just wants to emerge in that oneness of everything. So then you also just talked about that, and really appreciate it. I didn't mean to deviate from the topic of the shloka memorization group.
Oh, it's nice. So it brings up the question: is Shaivite a form of bhakti? If your idea is to become Shiva, then is it loving servitude, or is it dressed as bhakti? Like even in Vaishnavism, not in official Vaishnavism, but there are people that would call themselves Vaishnavas, but they have that Advaita Vedanta or Mayavadi understanding that at the end they become Krishna and they have their gopis, or they become the energy of the absolute. So it's not a sense of, it's like it's not a sense of, oh, for you. No, it's about for me, what I'm gonna get. So it's not in true sense of bhakti. So thank you.
At the end of that conversation with my friend, with the emerging the oneness, I just said, may Lord grant you your wishes, or whatever you most desire. And that's how we settled the topic.
That's good. I like one example I always like with the personalism and personalism, because it seems like you're leading to that, or maybe speaking on that. I gave a talk at a Christian theological seminary not a couple months ago, and the topic was called the depersonalization of God. And I wanted to first see like how far they ask them. Okay, I'm asking them, oh, have you heard this? Like, I pray to the universe, I put it out, like talk to them about that, and like, what are your thoughts about that? And they're like, and to get them to say like, yeah, God's a being, and then we have our argument is, okay, how far do you want to take it? Is he like a half being? Is he like a voice, but he's he's missing a head? Like, how much beingness are you going to give him? How much are you going to hold back from him? Is he, if you see somebody in a wheelchair and they have no feet, no hands, if they're blind, you feel like it's unfortunate that this person has that in that situation. So how much are you going to give God the full package? Is he going to have the full aspect, the full features of persona? meaning activity, relationship, form. And the example I always like is the sun and the sunlight. If you notice that you have form, you have personality, you have relationships, just like the sun, the sunlight has light and heat. But then what about the source? If I have personality, form, and relationships and attributes, and I go to the source and the source doesn't have those things, then it doesn't make sense. It's like saying hot, bright sunlight comes from a cold, dark sun. And then you may notice, well, the light here, it creates shadows. There may be negative qualities when it's distanced from the sun, but when you bring that, we follow that light trail all the way back to the sun, there's no shadows there. It's just luminosity, all pervasive. So similarly, my body needs deodorant. It gets wrinkles. It has all kinds of deteriorating qualities. But if I follow, yes, that's on my Facebook, I believe. But if I follow the personhood, the form of the source of my personhood, like this, I follow the ray back to the sun. The original form doesn't have those lacking qualities. Okay, so we'll jump right back in. Somebody read the verse for us, one line at a time, and we repeat.
Yatanto yoginaschainam
Yatanto yoginaschainam
paschantyatmanyavasthitam
pashantyatmanyavashchitam
yatantopi akritatmano
yatantopi kritatmano
nainam paschanti achetasaha.
nainam pashanti achetasaha. How about Mr. David?
Yeah, this one's tricky.
It is.
Yatanto yoginaschainam
Yatanto yoginaschainam
pashyanti atmanyavashtitam
pashanti atmanyavashchitam
yatantopi akritatmano
yatantopi kritatmano
nainam pashyati achetasaha.
nainam pashanti achetasaha. And sometimes you have to say it 20 times, like trying to say it, and then it's like, okay, then the tongue gets it. I saw a video about a professor who talked about learning languages to fluency in 6 months. He's like a polyglot linguist scholar, and he says, you're learning a language and your face starts hurting, that's good. Because it's like you're using the muscles in a different way. And like he gave a whole bunch of different suggestions of like seeing how the people's mouths move when they say it, things like that. So like yeah, sometimes we have to say it, and then finally the mouth starts to get it, the brain starts to get it, the tongue starts to figure out, okay, I can do it. Who's next? Jeffrey, you want to read it off?
Yeah, I can give it a shot. I'm also wondering, is there a set like sort of tune, or can you sort of do whatever notes you want in the?
Yeah, so there are many traditional melodies for this meter size of verse. This verse has 32 syllables. Most verses in all of the Gita are in this size called Anushtup. Oh, Mr. David's got to go. Thank you for coming. We'll probably be out just in a second, so I don't think you'll miss much, but really thank you very much for coming. Yeah, we're a bit over now.
Thank you.
So it's like all there are many different melodies that go with it. You can do any melody.
Okay.
The one melody that is like a Vedic melody is the "We don't need no education. Yatanto yoginaschainam Pashantna atmavashchatam yatantopi kritatmano nenam pashanti chetasaha.
Okay. I'll just see what comes to me and I'll go with that.
And there's in the first email, there's some recordings you can listen to.
Okay.
And in every email, I do a little recording of myself, but there are some more professional recordings in the first email.
Okay. Yatanto yoginashchenam
Yatanto yoginaschainam
pashyanti atmanyadvashtitam
pashanti atmani vashtatam
yatanto piyakritatmano
yatanto pikritatmano
nenam pashyantya chetasaha.
nainam pashanti chetasaha. Carlos, you want to give it a try?
Yatanto yoginaschainam
Yatanto yoginaschainam
pashanti amani avaishtitam
pashanti atmani navashchitam
yatanto pi akritatmano
yatanto pikritatmano
naimam pashanti achetasaha.
nainam pashanti chetasaha. Mr. Chance or Victoria? Victoria, we haven't heard from you. Are you free?
Yatanto yoginas chainam
Yatanto yoginaschainam
basanti atmani aveshitatam
pashanti atmani avashtitam
yanto pi akritmano
yatanto pi akritatmano
nainam pashanti aketsa.
nainam pashanti achetasaha. Thank you very much. The C's are always, whenever you see C in the Devanagari English, in the Sanskrit written out in the English letters, it's a cha sound. Cha sound. Or they'll only use it won't be sa or ka. It'll always be cha.
Prabhu, I'm also wondering about the AI. Is it more like I or I?
It's well. Here's the way I looked at it long time ago. If you look at the two words na and enam, it comes nenam.
Nenam. Yeah.
It's it's not an I. It's a ne.
Like the A and the E coming together,
A and
but it's
E,
just written
yeah.
AI.
Yeah.
Okay.
And one thing we always said before also to be aware of, in the English language, we have the tendency to overemphasize the second syllable, and that doesn't work always with other languages. So we'll say things like putana, to lassie, but it's like putana. And words that we hear like often we'll know how to say, like we say radhika, we don't say radhika because we know, but if we never heard that, if we just looked at the book, we would probably say radhika because it's the English does that overemphasize on that second syllable. So that's just another point to help avoid Chances jamming out. Jam.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I had to leave. Sorry for this. I had to leave and come back because my audio wasn't working.
Yeah, you can do the next reading, and then I think we'll head out.
Well, if you're okay with the background noise, I suppose.
All right,
I can't turn that off right now. I don't know if it will go with the melody.
All right.
I don't know if they had this music in at the Battle of Kurukshetra. Okay. Tanto yoginas jainam.
Tanto yoginas chainam.
Shanti atmani avistatam.
Pashanti atmani avashchatam.
yatantopi kritatmano
Yatantopi kritatmano
nenam pashanti chetasaha.
nenam pashanti achetasaha. Very good, very good. Unless there's any last comments or questions, I think we're out now. Any other reflections or comments or questions? We're good. No. Okay. Om Tat Sat. Thanks a lot.
Hare
Keep it
Krishna.
up. Keep it up. Keep it up. And I thought, once we finish, maybe we can go like a few more classes, just practicing. Once we get to verse number 20, maybe we can just keep up a couple days of, a couple more times of practice, so we can get so solid. And then we can also practice giving summaries of it. Mostly we suggest like verses 1 through 5. You kind of just, I usually, the analogy, because there's actually more to the analogy that's in the verse. There's like a lot of stuff in the purport. It can be kind of hard to summarize. So like just summarize what's the point of the analogy, and then like that's how I do it. But then it's try to explain each verse in your own words. And you can see you can make a whole hour-long class out of it. We're not going to do that, but you can also even do it in 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Explain the whole chapter. Kind of practice. So, Bhagavad Gītā in acronyms. It should be in the first email. I think that there's a welcome email that was sent out with a list of all the emails, with all the links. And the first one is that there's the original welcome email that has the materials. And that book is really cool. Bhagavad Gītā in acronyms is really cool. It really helps.
Oh, is that the link on Spark?
Yes.
Okay.
That work?
Thank
That
you.
work? Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's my email. Okay. Om Tat Sat. Thank you all very much. Your help, I can get to do some service. We all get to do some service together. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna. Have a good weekend.
You too.
Is there Wisdom of the Sages tomorrow morning?
Yeah. There's going to be a special guest.
Special guest. Okay.
He's the one who wrote the book on how to be a guru, or what, and not how to be a guru. What's a guru?
What's a guru?
How to be a
Okay.
disciple. Yeah. How to find a guru. How to find it's an important book, because
Perfect.
it's not like a super like basic question. That's like a nuanced question. It's hard to.
Oh, that's like can't the Srimad Bhagavatam be your guru or something like that?
Yeah, there's a lot of questions. It's not like a simple 1-2 statement. It's like you really have to understand.
Okay, look forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you.
You're what part of California are you?
We're in the San Francisco Bay Area. We're about an hour from San Francisco.
All right, nice. Well, hopefully we'll get some greens from you, microgreens.
I would absolutely love to share. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Hare Krishna.